again, everybody. This week we are going to take some learnings over the last year on leadership. The leadership conversations we had with a number of people are going to feature this week. Every time I listen to this, I have to re-record in my brain how these conversations have impacted my life. I'm sure you're going to have lots of fun this week listening to the highlights of the last year's conversations. Enjoy it. Enjoy your mind. We can really talk about anything because the objective is helping a younger version of ourselves. But you chose leadership. Why is that? Why is that so close to your heart?
Yeah, I think when you look at the world today and South Africa in particular, maybe mining industry, it is changing rapidly. And sometimes it's changing for the good and sometimes changing for the bad. Now, I think leadership is the catalyst for that. It's a catalyst for change and it's a catalyst for whether it's good or bad. So I think that is what is going to make the difference going forward. It's not so much on saying our future depends on technology or our future depends on the economy or our future depends on something else. No. It is the leadership that enables all those other things to create a better future. So I think that is critical. And then I think there are some misconceptions about leadership that we need to just put out there and say, let's understand better what is leadership. And then we see why it is the catalyst. It was interesting doing a walkabout here the other day. One of our new sort of learner finance people, as a graduate, is BCom, and he says to me, he's a new guy that we're developing and training and everything. And he says to me, oh, it must be nice to be the CEO. You get to go home early and you play golf, and you've arrived somewhere. And I said, what? I have the longest working hours in this company. It really takes effort, work, push. And I think naturally everyone thinks, if you're the boss, well, I'm doing the work and you sit in there getting the credit. And it might appear like that, but it's not like that. There's really a lot of diligent work involved, reading notes, looking at data, pushing, nudging people, guiding people, coaching people, encouraging people. It's very active. It's very passionate. It takes a lot of energy. I don't play golf. Unfortunately, there's no time to play golf. I do other things to keep a bit of balance, but it's not like that. And if you have that perception that you're going to arrive one day in this position, no, that is not leadership. You're looking after yourself to find a nice little passive, comfortable role. No. When you sign up for this, you actually sign up to do more than most, to put in the hard hours, the hard work, the behind the scenes, and try to do the opposite. Let the others take the credit as you go. So I think that we must just put leadership in context, especially when one looks at, maybe your political environment, maybe your government, things like this. There's this big perception that now you're the leader, now you got the good life. It's definitely not like that. It's in fact the opposite. So I think, to all the young listeners there, I think just remember, you have to keep working all the time. You don't arrive. If ever you arrived, you've missed the boat. You've missed it. You've missed the whole plot then. So then when I mean it's the catalyst for change, and that then comes back to, so what is this leadership? I think in the world today, with these changing times, leadership in general has not been able to keep pace in terms of how dynamic it is, how robust it is to take on these challenges and then forge a way forward. Now, I think that's where we have to develop skill. Develop skill in, number one, sketching a future vision, working out action plans, paying particular diligence to fixing the problems or giving guidance, knowing that if you've come up through the ranks, you do have more experience and knowledge, and definitely some wisdom than those that are following you. You must deploy that. You must guide them. You cannot just passively sit back and say, well, now I've sketched the future and this is what we should do and let it happen. No, you are involved in everything. And we've seen this around the world where leaders say, I have this vision of X, Y, Z, of dealing with the gender-based violence challenge or solving the electricity problem in South Africa, or I will solve that. No, that is not enough. You actually have to get in the machine and start the work, the progress, and do something about it. Otherwise, the problem will never get fixed. Now, we can see other leaders. I mean, we have different types of leaders, but look what Elon Musk does. He says, I have vision, I want to go to Mars. He doesn't leave it like that and hire a bunch of scientists. No, he sleeps on his office floor sometimes, and he makes sure that that rocket gets made, or that Tesla motor car really comes out right and doesn't have rattles. He puts in the hard work, very active, a lot of energy, constantly being channeled. And I suppose Elon Musk is the perfect example in that area. He makes a lot of mistakes. And you've got to pick yourself up, brush yourself, and carry on going. And don't get knocked down by those. So I think that's where South Africa needs, and the mining industry needs, robust, strong leaders that have intelligence, energy, passion, and an acute eye for looking at the detail and keeping an eye on what's actually happening. So that's why that catalyst for change, we need the right change, and therefore we need the right leaders to take this country forward.
Any final words from you to a younger version of yourself? What would you tell a younger version of yourself, apart from everything else that you've said today?
When I look back, and one thing when I say, would I have changed anything in my life or done something different? And yes, you've had fatals, you've done these things, you've had strikes and all these things. Would I change something? And say, no, Christo, you can't actually change something, because then you're going to change who you are. And sometimes you are built on the difficult times. Sometimes you are built on those failures. And if you want to take out those failures and those difficult times where really it's not enjoyable, if you take those away, you will not be who you are. So remember, I think you must look at those failures and difficult times as actually that is the time you grow and learn, and then you get into it and do it.
Also, getting to know you, you make comments like being blessed, being humbled. You are a humble person, but that is also such an important leadership trait. And in terms of staying grounded, is there something that you do? Because you've had a lot of success, and it's so easy for us to get a chip on our shoulders and thinking that we've arrived, and I am now the man or the woman that have arrived, head of the department or head of the business, or I've started this successful consulting company. How important is it to you to stay grounded?
Yeah, Christo, look, I think if I see what's happened in many organizations, it's kind of when they lose their link to the entrepreneur or the founder or the key person or people that kind of made them successful. Once that link is lost, customers see that, the market sees it. That kind of trust starts to move out, and employees see it as well. And I think it's probably limiting, because it does limit your ability to grow. But for me, I need to be part of the team. Yes, I've got a responsibility to lead the team in some ways, not always, but I need to stay part of the team. And it's important in two aspects. First of all, I need to be doing assignments and projects. If I stop doing that, I just don't feel relevant. When you start off in consultancy, you've got to have a skill. You've got to be able to do something that people will pay money for. It can be anything, but you've got to have something that's unique.
Yes.
And that people will come after. And you need to keep doing that. Now, you'll develop different skills in different areas in the journey, but you've got to maintain that. Otherwise, you become an overhead, so to speak.
Yes.
And I think that the key thing is to stay part of the mix. So I work on many projects. I'm the project manager on one of our feasibility studies, which is fantastic. And I get involved as a team member. So that's important. And also it gives team members an opportunity to rub shoulders with you and with one another. And we learn from each other.
Yeah.
We don't have mining assets. We just have whiteboards and boardrooms. So we can't give some of our younger guys and ladies the same experience that many of us had.
Yeah.
But we can teach them and we can interact. So first of all, being part of the team, not just in name, interacting as part of the team. And the second thing is not removing yourself from the team. It's to make sure that you stay in the open plan office. You don't decide that, you've got now a new floor where all the management or the corporate guys move to. I've seen that so many times. People think they're just creating more space, but what they're doing is creating layers in the organization. And at Fraser McGill, we have no layers. We've got a flat structure. It may be to our detriment one day when we kind of grow. And I'll say this with greatest respect to HR people, but I've always said to Quibus, when we get an HR department, I'm retiring, and I'm not taking anything away from the needs of organizations, but we're trying to keep it simple, flat, interactive, and people need not just to hear that you a kind of humble leader or you part of the team, they need to see it. So you need to participate in different events, keep close to your people, understand what they're going through personally or work-wise. And it's probably, you're probably limited to a certain size of organization. But if that's the case, I'm very, very happy with that. That's how I like to operate.
Rob, it's been absolutely amazing. Fortunately, I didn't make the notes because I would have made a lot of noise here, but it has been absolutely amazing. Any final words on your end to leave us with, apart from the networking one?
No, man, just to say the mining industry is a fantastic place. One thing we've never done is stepped out of it. We've stuck to what we know, and it looks after its own. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it, and hope there's a good few more years to come.
Have you got any advice for supervisors, leaders of people that are right now faced with implementing new technology and helping their teams navigate this difficult transition?
Yeah. So the first point I think I would say there, Christo, is that the question of enrolling people into the vision is very critical, because people have got to understand, or employees have got to understand why, what, and how. Because if they don't, then the question of buy-in becomes very difficult. So those leaders and supervisors who are currently implementing or executing or looking into opportunities for technology have got to realize that enrolling people into that vision is very critical. That's the first thing. The second point is how you structure yourself for delivery. My view has always been that, as I said, there are subject matter experts. Typically, these would sit outside the business, but there are also knowledgeable and experienced people within the business. It is to find the right mix and structure, that technology rollout plan, such that it's not only a question of buy-in, but it's also relevance. Because remember, most of these technologies, when they are when they are put onto the market, they target a particular sector, but they can be replicated in other sectors. So to bring that experience, you need people internal to make it relevant for our business, but you need the subject matter experts who know the behind this, the black box, to be able to fast track that adoption. So that is the second point. The third point is that, as I've highlighted, I think I would suggest that companies have PMO offices, project management offices, because this is not business as usual. Most projects fail because they are considered as business as usual. To have a PMO office is better, because then that PMO office usually will be accountable through the right channels to the overall manager of the business, whether general manager, and I would actually suggest the general manager, because then you've got sight and criticality from that perspective. But a PMO office is relevant because then you have accountability.
Yes.
Because when you are implementing and there's no accountability and there's no oversight right from the top, it becomes business as usual, and failures and successes will all look the same. And eventually the interest and relevance actually wins off. And that's why most projects, 3-4 years from now, you'll say, but we wanted to, but we never did. And nobody knows how it was closed down. So that is the third point I was going to make. And then the fourth one, I think the culture of the organization, Christo, is very important. I remember, and I must pick on your example, when you did the RP 2.0, and I wasn't obviously in your business. I was a competitor next door, but of course our business is very, very good standing in the southern part of but we were very clear, even on the outside of the business, as to what your journey was going to be. So you can imagine if we had clarity on the outside that, clearly on the inside, similarly, that clarity definitely must have been there. So what I'm trying to highlight here is that technology, just like any other project in a business, like you are doing an expansion project or whatever, it actually does require that clarity. Because if it's not clear, like I said, you want to do a solar plant. Why are you doing a solar plant? For what? What exactly are you trying to mitigate? Is it a question of cost? Is it a question of emission reduction? Is it a question of sustainability? What is it? So if we have that clarity, then I think from my perspective, the organization itself, the organizational culture will come into its own. I genuinely think that most people like to say their organizations are learning organizations, they're high performance organizations, etc., etc. But the challenge is, how do you speak that into what you do? How do you speak that? So my view is that for us to succeed, we have to embed technology as part and parcel of the company culture. I personally like to think that companies like Microsoft, companies like Google, companies like Facebook, they allow their employees to think of themselves as technology architects, and therefore their ideas keep flowing, and the companies continue to grow and thrive. And I think there is no reason why mining companies cannot think like that.
Sure.
Because then it allows because remember, where are the ideas going to come from? The ideas are going to come from the shop floor.
Yes.
If an employee feels unsafe, or they feel like they are not productive, or they feel like the expenditure is unreasonable, naturally, they'll start thinking about solutions.
Yeah.
And that solution engineering process is where this technology filtration does come through. So I genuinely think if you've got the right culture in the organization, those solutions predominantly will be technology solutions. And that's how you embed it. So, us as leaders, in as much as we say our organizations are high performance organizations, they're learning organizations, we need to deliberately drive that culture of technology. And we should be fine.
And we should be fine. Thanks a lot. Irvine, I realize our time has just flown past. It's been a very immersive conversation today. I would like maybe if you can just close off for us today, what would you tell a younger Irvine, looking at yourself 20 years ago, you've started out, is there anything you would have done differently, or tell a younger version of yourself, focus on these three things, this will, make it a lot easier for you?
Yeah. So I think maybe the first point, Christo, is that I would definitely advise myself to have made a lot more mistakes in my earlier years of my career. Reason being is that as I grew into the industry, I realized that I became risk averse based on my perception of risk, which was obviously based on my experience in my earlier years. Where I am now, I think I'm in a comfortable position now, but I should have been in that comfortable position much earlier had I made the mistakes I needed to make earlier on in my career. And when I say mistakes, I'm not particularly saying, I should have been, how do I put it? I should have been doing things I shouldn't be doing. What I'm saying is that I should have immersed myself, allowed myself to be criticized, allowed myself to learn, do the time, which I think I did, but I could have done more. Certainly ground myself technically, leadership-wise, and make those mistakes. Because at that point in time, quite frankly, you are allowed to make the mistakes, and most of the time, those mistakes would not be financially significant. The challenge is that if you wait to make the mistakes at these levels, typically those mistakes are very significant. So that's the first thing that I would have advised myself to do. And then the second one, I think the point that you just highlighted is that I genuinely think that diversifying my skills is one aspect that I probably delayed in my career. To the point that you made, I think coming out of graduate programs, I should have probably paid attention not just to the mining stream. I should have earlier on paid attention to the finance, because at the end of the day, mining is a business. I should have paid attention to procurement. At the end of the day, it's about logistics and parts. I should have paid attention to safety leadership, because at the end of the day, we work with people who have got families, etc. Of course, that I've course corrected along the way, but I'm just saying, for those that have the opportunity now, start earlier on.
Yeah.
The third one, Christo, is, I think the current generation has an opportunity to learn from the mistakes that you and I have made. And one mistake that definitely I would want the current generation, younger generation, to learn from us is that, when we started out, the mining industry is one that I think looked after us very well, but we did not look after ourselves from a point of financial management, health, and building a brand as an individual. I think, some of us in our earlier years, we might have missed that opportunity because we were stuck in this bubble of being in an industry that looks after you. I would suggest that they don't make the same mistake. There's opportunity there to be financially savvy as an individual, to look after your health and balance work and life, and certainly learn more earlier on. When you are at these levels, time is an expensive commodity. And unfortunately, you have to make sacrifices. What else? And then I think, look, actually the last one, and this one I keep on saying it, is that when I was mentioning the fact that being the first is not a destination, the point I was trying to make there, Christo, is that how you handle that responsibility will determine how far you go. Because had I let the voices that sought to convince me that because you have been given this throne of a king by us, and therefore you owe it to us to do things in a particular way, then I don't think I would have gone as far as I had gone. My view is that for those that come through, and for women leadership, it's not only about Black leadership, but it's women leadership, etc., etc. Really, what they need to think about is when they should take that responsibility seriously, and they need to sort of see themselves into the future, irrespective of what decisions they want to make at that particular point in time. And I'm glad that that situation sort of never changed what I believed in. It never sort of got to my integrity. I stand here today proud that I've made decisions that others might think were a little bit tough, were wayward or whatever, but I can still stand today and say I was correct in making those decisions.
You own your decisions.
Yes, I've owned my decisions, basically. Yeah, that's it.
Do you need some one-on-one coaching? Do you know that theminingcoach.com offer these services as part of Kumena Consulting? Kumena means grow, and most top athletes and sport teams all have coaches to grow and become better. Why don't you reach out to us by sending us an email, and you will qualify for getting your first coaching session absolutely free. Contact us at christo@theminingcoach.com. Terms and conditions apply. But talk to us about this topic of excellence that you are so passionate about. Why did you choose this topic? What's so important to you in this area?
I think for me, so if I start from a personal point of view, excellence means to be the best that you can be and to do the best that you can do. And I think we also know this from a sports kind of view, but in a career or in personal development, I've had this focus for many years, so throughout my career. But the interesting thing with trying to be the best that you can be is that you have a certain goal, you set a certain bar. And the closer you come to that, so initially you have these leaps of, improvement, and then it becomes very small and incremental.
Yeah.
But the closer you come to being the best, you realize, but look, there's more, there's a little bit better. So
Yeah.
so actually that sets you out on a growth path or a development path. It's hard work. It really requires that dedication. And it's good when you look back that you can see that progress. But it's something that I would say, you cannot start today and say, look, I'm going to be excellent or this is it. It's really that continuous work at it. And it's actually a mindset. So if you work on that, it becomes almost like an attribute, I would say, that, really that becomes part of what you do and how you do that. Obviously, that being said, you should make sure that what you are working so hard on, be that on a technical skill level or on a personal development, so something in your personal life or your personal characteristics that you are working on, you should define it that you work on the right things, so that that it works towards the goals that you actually have for yourself. And I think then if you take that a bit further, so if you work in teams, that same approach towards improving yourself, improving the team, but also, if you have certain targets or certain things that you want to achieve as a team, there's that level that is quite good, but it's always important to just say, look, but can you not do that little bit better? And you need somebody that can say, look, just push a little bit more. So I like to be that person. People that work with me would also be able to confirm that. And I think what is really good, if especially in a team context, if you go that extra bit, after a while, that when the team can see what it achieves, there's that certain pride, and it starts to identify the team. So it's no longer a thing of we achieved this thing. It rather becomes that we are the team who can reach that next level. So the team starts to identify themselves with that. And I really enjoy working in such a team environment. It obviously takes a bit of getting there. It's always hard work. I think it's the same like in sport or so. It don't just happen by itself, but it's really good if you can get to that level.
Any final remarks or words of wisdom from your end today?
I think the more you want to gain wisdom, you realize how little you have. So for me, I really appreciate your podcast. I appreciate the opportunity to learn from others. And I really enjoy that people are willing to share their experiences. And you don't necessarily learn a lot from someone's experience, but there's always some part that is relevant, that is good. And I think if I can have a wish for especially younger versions of myself, it would be that you shouldn't wait too late to start learning, and you will never know all the answers. So it's a lifelong process.
Well, there you have it, everybody. That's from Estelle Alberts. Nick, so we didn't prepare this one, but I'll give it to you anyway.
Sure.
You are leading a technical team, and you talk a lot about, the softer side of mining, a life coach, people skills, the way to have a conversation. How important is it for technical people to have those skills? Because the reason I'm asking that is a lot of the times that the people in the technical area of mining, whether it's you're in the lab site, you're a chemist, or you are the geologist or the ventilation engineer or the planning engineer, they see themselves as specialists, and they can basically spend most of their time behind the computer screens and not interact too much with people. What would your advice be to people that are in that area of a mining company, and the best advice that you can give them today about what you've learned?
It's a great question. I think, in my experience, even in technical roles, there's always this element, right, of influencing other people, working with people to achieve a goal. And I think if you're not able to, whether you're the manager of a group or one of the technical specialists in a group, I think, recognizing that you're all in the same team, and that even in an individual contributor role, there's very much a need to work with others and influence others, even if you are a technical specialist. And so I think spending time on relationships and getting to know people, getting to know stakeholders and understand other people's perspectives and why they might think the way they think is very valuable. And so I think before you even get to any of the technical stuff, I think it's important to understand, who is this, who are these people and the mosaic of personalities that come along with that. Because I think unless you can start with really understanding the stakeholders that you're working with, it's going to be very difficult to get anything done. And so I would encourage, anybody to spend a lot of time on the relationship side of the business and not just the technical, and approach it from a very, very genuine place. And I think that's been, I'm certainly not perfect, but I do pride myself on trying to be very genuine with people. And I think that approach has served me well in my career, because it helps build trust. And so when you look at, building trust and respect with your team members, I think that's an absolutely essential piece to working in a team, whether you're leading the team or as an individual contributor. So,
it's a people game. It's an influence game, and we can do as much technical stuff as we like. We can run the numbers, we can write those reports. If we can't get people to act and do things differently, then we haven't done our jobs as technical people. So that's, I guess, that's the takeaway that I get from you here, Nick. Nick, in closure, you are a very busy man. You've waken up early, and you still still at the early part of your day. We started this at 6. So any final words of wisdom that you want to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know how much wisdom I have to offer, but I think, I would just encourage anybody in this industry that, it's a tough industry, and it can often be a very high pressure industry when you have day-to-day production targets. But I think it's important to, really just enjoy the process, not take it so personally when things do go sideways, and really just enjoy the ride, because it's such an amazing industry that is a lot of fun and is so crucial for our world. And I think it's I'm certainly privileged to be part of this community, this mining community, and I'm excited for anybody else coming up in the industry as well right now. I think it's such an exciting time, and certainly enjoy the process. So
The Mining Coach is part of Comena Consulting. If your company is in need of technical study support, due diligence studies, business improvement projects, or business and senior leadership coaching, why don't you contact us directly by clicking on the show notes and following the links that will connect you to us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your mining. Cheers.